Hello students, today I am here to teach you chapter 23 in your textbook that's called Formulae. You have learned lot of formulae in science, in maths, in all other subjects. Now we'll take, in chapter 1, we talked about perimeter. What are the formulae we learned in that lesson? Let's take a rectangle. When you take a rectangle, we know length is L, breadth is the other side. If I want to find out the perimeter of the rectangle, what's the formula we got in chapter 1? P is the perimeter, that's equal to 2 times L plus B. Because perimeter, we add all sides around the figure. Now, we call this whole thing is a formula. And here P is in one side. We call this is the subject of the formula. Again, we'll take area of the rectangle. A is equal to length into breadth. So what's the formula there? This is formula for area of a rectangle. What's the subject of the formula? A is the subject of the formula. And what about when you take circle? What's the area? If it's a circle with radius r, what's the area of a circle? A is equal to pi r squared. So this is also a formula. And what's this one? A is the area of the circle. That's the subject of the formula. And this is the subject. So you need to understand when you take different formulae, what's the subject of the formula. Again, we'll take some more examples. In science, you know, final velocity is equal to the initial velocity plus acceleration into time. So this is another formula. T is the time. And what about in percentage unit? What's the interest? RPT over N. So this is the interest. So that's also a formula. And this is the I is the subject of the formula. Here V is the subject of the formula. Now we'll see if you have given a formula, how we can change the subject. Now in this one, this is the perimeter of a rectangle. P is the subject, but I want to make L as the subject. How can we do that? So I'll teach you two methods here. Now we need to make L as a subject. First method, I can expand brackets and keep L in one side and take all the other terms to the other side. So we'll do that. when you expand brackets, what happens? You need to multiply these two by 2. You get 2L plus 2B. And then I need to make L in one side. So I'll keep 2L here and take 2B to the other side. P minus 2B. Then I need to divide this by 2 to get L. So I can write L is equal to P minus 2B over 2. And what about the other method? Now, without expanding brackets, I can make L as the subject. First thing, I can get rid of this 2. How can I get rid of this 2? This multiplied by 2. So what's the opposite of multiplication? That's division. So we'll do that way as well. So I can take 2 to this side. That means P divided by 2 is L plus B. Now we can make L as the subject. Keep L here and take B to the other side. So P over 2 minus B. So here when you are writing the subject, normally we keep the letter in the left hand side. So I'll rewrite this equation. L equals P over 2 minus B. You can write either this way or this way when you want to make L as the subject of the formula. So remember, always you have to, if you want a variable in one side, take all other terms to the other side. Now look at this equation. Velocity is equal to initial velocity plus acceleration into time. Now V is the subject of the formula. I want U as the subject. What you do? I can keep U in one side and take all the other terms to the other side. So this is the other term. So I'm taking to the other side. That becomes minus AT. So what is U? U equals V minus AT. I can rewrite this as V minus AT. So this is the formula for initial velocity now. Initial velocity is final velocity minus acceleration into time. Now I want to make A as the subject of the formula. Now A term is here. So I want to keep that one and take all the other terms to the other side. So here what can I do? I can take U to the other side. So it becomes V minus U. V minus U becomes AT. Now I want A as the subject. So what I should do? I can divide this by T. So what is A now? A is equal to V minus T divided by V minus U divided by T. So this is the formula for acceleration. Now I want to make T as the subject of the formula. What you do? From the beginning, keep that term in one side and I get V minus U equals AT. Now I want T. So keep T in one side and take A to the other side by dividing. So I can rewrite this one as T equals V minus U over A. Now we'll take another one. This equation, P equals X plus Q minus R whole thing times S. So all these are variables. Now what's the subject of this formula? P is the subject, but I want the other variables as a subject of the formula. So what can we do? So X is first. I want to take X to one side. So this term, I can take it to the other side. So what is x? I can keep it here. P is already there. And this whole term, I can take it to the other side as minus q minus r into s. So this is x as the subject of the formula. Next, s. I want to keep this one. So what's the first step? I can take x to the other side. I can write q minus rs is equal to p minus x. Now what's the next one? I need s. So I can keep s and divide this whole thing by q minus r. So I can do p minus x divide by q minus r to get s value. Now q. I want q as the subject. So q is inside the brackets. So we can't straight away take the other variables to other side. So only way is to expand brackets and then keep q term in one side. We'll do it. P equals x plus q times s, qs, then minus, r times s, rs. Now I need q term. So I'll keep this one here and take all the other terms to the other side. So I'll write here p minus x, and this minus becomes plus when you take it to the other side. So what is s now? We need q. We need q now. So q equals p minus x plus rs divided by s. So that's the formula for q as the subject of the formula. Now we'll take another one. Another formula, 1 over v minus 1 over u is equal to 1 over f. I want v as the subject of the formula. What can I do? I can keep this term in one side. 1 over v is equal to, this whole thing I can take it to the other side. 1 over f plus 1 over u. Now this is fraction addition. I can just add it. Fu is the lowest common multiple, and I can multiply this by u, this by f. 1 over v is this, but I want v. So what we can do? Taking upside down, what you call that? Reciprocal of the formula. So when you take the reciprocal, that means upside down. Numerator goes to the denominator, denominator goes to the numerator. That's equal to, this denominator goes up and the numerator goes down. So what's v? v equals fu plus u plus f. We'll take this one, y equals mx plus c. This is a mathematical formula for straight lines. Now, y is the subject. I want c as the subject. Now try to keep c in one side. So what's c? c is y minus mx. M as the subject. Now I need to keep this one. So what I'm getting, mx equals y minus c. Because c I can take it to the other side, but I need m. So what is m? Y minus c over x. How can I make x as the subject? Again, from the beginning, take the original equation. Now I need x. So take c to the other side. So mx equals y minus c. So what is x? Y minus c divided by m. This one, SC equals n over 2a plus L. This is in sequence lesson. What you need n as the subject. So this one, I can first take 2 to the other side by multiplying it by 2. So 2 times S is equal to n into a plus L. I need n. So what is n? N equals 2S, this part, divided by a plus L. This one, A as the subject. So I can first keep the whole term here. So like before, I can multiply by 2 first and then divide by n. I get a plus L. Now I want A as the subject. So keep A in one side, take L to the other side. So what is A? A is equal to 2S over n minus L. So this is A as a subject of the formula. Now L as the subject of the formula, I can start from here. Here. In this one, I need L now. What is L? L equals 2S over n minus A. So these are the different subject of the formula. Now we'll try to do review exercise in your textbook. Make U as a subject of the formula. We already did this. Now try. V equals U plus AT. I need U. Keep U in one side and take other term, AT term to this side, V minus AT. So rearrange it so that you always write down the variable in left hand side. U equals V minus AT. Second one, make F the subject of the formula. C equals 5 over 9, F minus 32. So I need F now. So what is the first thing we can do? I can multiply by 9 and divide by 5. So this term get cancelled out. Multiply by 9 and divide by 5. That's equal to F minus 32. I need F now. F is equal to 9C over 5 plus 32. I can rewrite it. F equals 9C over 5 plus 32. So F is the subject of the formula. Now, third one. Consider the formula L equals A plus n minus 1 D. Make A the subject of the formula. This one. So we'll do the first part. I can keep A here and take this term to the other side. L minus n minus 1 D. So that's A. I can rewrite A equals L minus n minus 1 D. That's the first one. Second one, make D the subject of the formula. This part. So what I can do? I can take a first to the other side and divide this whole thing by n minus 1 to get d. So what is d? D is equal to L minus A over n minus 1. Third one, make n the subject of the formula. I'll write down again the formula. N as the subject. Now here n is inside brackets. So we have to expand brackets. So we'll expand brackets first. ND minus D equals L. Keep n term in one side. I can write L minus A minus D becomes plus D is equal to ND. So what's N? N equals L minus A plus D divide by D. Fourth one. Find the value of D when L equals 24, A equals 3, N equals 8. Now which formula we can take to find out D? Which one is easy? We found D is equal to L minus A over N minus 1. So we can take this formula, substitute these values, and easily you can find out the D value. We'll take this one. D equals L minus A over N minus 1. What is L? 24. A is 3. N is 8. Now simplify. 24 minus 3, you get 21. 8 minus 1, 7. So 21 over 7 is 3. So what's the D value? D is equal to 3. Question number 4. Consider the formula 1 over R equals 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. Make R1 the subject of the above formula. 1 over R equals 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2. I need this term. So I'll keep this one in one side and take the other term to the other side. Then you can do the fraction subtraction. What's the common denominator? R and R2. R2 minus R here 1 over R1. Now I need R1 as a subject. So take the reciprocal. Reciprocal of the formula R1 equals capital R R2 over R2 minus R. Then it says find the value of R1 when R equals 4, R2 equals 6. So we already made R1 as the subject of the formula. So we can take that equation. So R1 equals R2 over R2 minus R. Now substitute the values. 4 times 6 over 6 minus 4. 4 times 6, 24. 6 minus 4, you get 2. 24 divided by 2, you get 12 as R1. Now we'll look at how we can change the subject of the formulae containing squares and square roots. Can you remember what's the formula here? Pi r squared is the area of a circle. If I want to make R as the subject of the formula, what we do? Keep R squared in one side you get a over pi. I need r. What's the opposite of square? Square root. I need to take square root of this side to get the r value. But when you are taking square root, make sure that you put plus or minus. Plus or minus square root a over pi. But we know r is the radius of a circle. R cannot be negative. So here we can write r is the positive value because cannot be a negative value. So here we can write r is radius. R is radius, cannot be negative. So that's why we are taking only the positive value. Now here, this formula you will learn in A-level class. Periodic time. T is equal to 2 pi square root L over G. Now we need to make L as the subject of the formula. How can we do that? What's the first step? I need to keep this whole term in one side. So first thing is to divide T by 2 pi. Now L is inside square root. We need to get rid of the square root term. What's the opposite of square root? We have to take the square term. So what we do, take square term both sides. So I can write T over 2 pi whole thing squared is equal to L over G because square root and square term gets cancelled out. Then what is L then? L is equal to G times T over 2 pi whole thing squared. I can simplify and write down. G is in the numerator and you get T squared over 2 into 2. 2 times 2, you get 4 pi squared. So what's the L value? L is equal to GT squared over 4 pi squared. So this is when you get a square term, you need to take the square root. When you get a square root term, you have to square it to get cancelled. When you get a square root, you have to square it to get the variable. Now we'll look at exercise 23.1. Make the unknown term within brackets is the subject of the relevant formula. V squared minus U squared is 2AS. I need U as the subject. So I'll keep this one minus U squared and take V squared to the other side minus V squared. Then I can't keep minus here. So I'm multiplying all terms by minus value, minus 1. Then I get U squared. This becomes minus then and this becomes positive. But minus value in front, I want to rearrange it so that I'm getting inside this term inside that. So I can write the positive value first and 2AS next. So U squared is V squared minus 2AS. So what is U? U is the square root of this value. So when you are taking square root, make sure that you put plus or minus. This one, A squared plus B squared equals C squared. What's that formula? Pythagoras theorem. You have to make B as the subject. So I'll keep B squared in one side so that I have to take a squared to the other side. Then how to take b? Square root of this answer. When you take square root, you get plus or minus. So depend on the situation, you can ignore negative. But when you are writing something like that, we don't know what is b, so keep plus or minus there. This one, 1/3 pi r squared h, volume of the cone. Make r as the subject of the formula. So we have to keep r squared first in one side. So that means I need to multiply this by 3v and then divide it by pi h to get r squared. Then what is r? Square root of 3v over pi h. But we know r is the radius here. So you can just write down the positive value. This one, a as the subject of the formula. This one. So what's the first step? Multiply this by 3. Then I need to get rid of this h. I can divide this by h. So what is a? A is the square root of 3v over h. So the answer is plus or minus square root 3v over h. This one, a equals pi r squared minus simple r squared. Make r as the subject. Now here again, r is inside the brackets. We can't do at once. You can expand brackets, but there's a way of doing. If I take only this one to the other side, I can make r as a subject. We'll do that way. So when you divide this by pi, you get r squared minus r squared. Now I can keep this one here and take capital R squared to the other side. Now you can't keep minus, change signs for all parts. When you change the sign, you get r squared positive minus a over pi. Then take the square root. R is equal to square root of capital R squared minus a over pi. So I can write plus or minus. This one, I need u as the subject of the formula. I can keep this one first. What I need to do, I need to multiply this by 2. 2e and then divide this by m. I get v squared minus u squared. But I need u. So keep minus u squared here. What happens? 2e over m minus v squared. But there's a minus sign. How can I ignore minus? You have to multiply all the terms by minus. U squared is equal to, then this becomes plus v squared minus 2e over m. U equals square root of 2e over m. Question number 2. Make the unknown term within brackets the subject of the relevant formula. T equals 2 pi L over G. I need G now. So keep this one. What happens? I can divide this by 2 pi. Now G is inside square root. So how can you get rid of square root? Square both sides. then I can first take the square term, t squared over 4 pi squared is equal to L over G. G is in the denominator. You can take the reciprocal to get G. I'm changing this one upside down. So G over L is equal to, this goes up, and you can write 4 pi squared over t squared. So what is G now? G is equal to L times. So 4 pi squared L over t squared. Now this one, theta is a Greek letter. Theta is equal to 3RT over M half. Half means square root. How can you get rid of square root? Take the square term. When you take the square term, you get only the inside part. Now we need M. M as the subject. So take the reciprocal. So I can take 1 here and take the reciprocal. M over 3RT is equal to 1 over theta squared. So what is M? M is equal to, multiply here, 3RT over theta squared. This one, P as a subject. So keep square root P. When you keep square root P, that means you have to divide this by 4. Now, square both sides. When you square root, it get cancelled out. I get this whole thing squared, or I can write q squared over 4 into 4, 60. So P equals q squared over 60. This one, S equals A plus square root B. I need B as a subject. So keep it here and take A term to the other side. S minus A is equal to square root B. Now take square term both sides. So B is equal to S minus A whole thing squared. This one, A as the subject of the formula. A is inside. So what's the first step? I can divide V by W. Get A squared minus X squared. Then I need this partner. I need to get rid of this square root. Square both sides. A squared minus X squared. Keep this one here and take the other term to the other side. So I get A squared is equal to V squared over W squared plus X squared. So what is A now? I can take square root value. Square root of V squared over W squared plus X squared. Take the plus or minus value. This one, H. So H is inside the square root sign. First step, divide by pi r. That's equal to H squared plus r squared. Now, square both sides. I get A squared over pi squared r squared is equal to H squared plus r squared. Then what is H? I can keep H squared in one side. Take this one to the other side. Now what is H? Square root of this value. So H equals square root of A squared over pi squared r squared minus r squared. Take plus or minus. Now we did how we can change the subject of the formula. But now we are trying to substitute values in formulae. Now what's the formula here? Volume of a cone. R is the radius of the cone and H is the perpendicular height. And here it's given V as 132, H is 14, pi is 22/7. Find R. Here, without making R as the subject, we can do the same question. I'll show you both ways. If I'm not making R as the subject, just substitute the values. V equals 132, 1/3, pi is 22/7, R you need to find, and H is 14. So I can rewrite this as 22 R squared 14/3 times 7. Don't try to simplify here. We'll first make R squared as the subject and then simplify. So what is R squared? R squared becomes 132 multiplied by 3 and 7 divided by 22 and 14. Now you can simplify. 7 times 2, then you get 2 times 11, 2 times this, 2 times 6, 12, 2 times 6, 12. Here 66, 11 times 6. Then 2 and 6 you get 3. 3 times 3, 9. R squared is 9. Square root of R, square root of 9 becomes R. So square root of 9 plus or minus you get 3. I'm taking only the positive 3 because R is the radius of the cone, cannot be negative. So R is 3. Now you can make R as the subject and then substitute. Especially when you are using computers or scientific calculator, you have to make R as the subject and then substitute the values. Now we'll make R as the subject of the formula. When you take R squared in one side, you get 3V over pi H. Then when you take the square root, 3V over pi H here. Then you can substitute the values and find the R value. Exercise 23.2 in your textbook. Consider the formula V squared is equal to U squared plus 2AS. Find the value of A. When V equals 10, U equals 0, S equals 10. So, we'll first make A as the subject of the formula. V squared is U squared plus 2AS. I can keep this one here and take U squared to the other side. Then what is A? A is equal to V squared minus U squared over 2S. Now substitute the values. V squared, 10 squared, U squared is 0 squared is 0 over 2 times S is 10. When you simplify, 10 squared is 100, 2 times 10, 20, you get 5. So the acceleration, here you get 5. Here in this question, you don't need to write down the units. A equals 5. Now look at the second part. Find the value of S. S is here. Make S as the subject. You get V squared minus U squared is 2AS. So S equals V squared minus U squared over 2A. Now substitute the values. In this one, V is 10. That means 10 squared. U is 5. You can put 5 squared over 2 times a is 2. 10 squared is 100. 5 squared is 25 over 4. 100 minus 25 is 75 over 4, or you can divide and write 4 times 1, 4 for 35. You get 8, 32, 30 remaining. 4 times 7, 28, 20 remaining, that's 5. 18.75 is S value. Third part, find the value of U when V equals 10, A equals 3 and S equals 6. So for the third part, we'll make U as the subject of the formula. So what is U? We'll keep U squared here. That means we are taking minus 2AS to the other side. Then what is U? Square root of this value. Take plus or minus. Now substitute the values. V squared, 10 squared minus 2 times 3 times 6. What's the answer? You get plus or minus. 10 squared is 100. 6 times 3, 18. 18 times 2, 36. 100 minus 36, you get 64. Square root of 64 plus or minus 8. Here, you don't need to think about whether it's plus value or negative value. You can write down plus or minus 8. Question number 2. If x equals square root of y plus c, find the value of x when y equals 6 and z equals 10. So here, straight away you can substitute the value because x is the subject of the formula. Y is 6, z is 10. 10 plus 6, 16. What's the square root of 16? You get plus or minus 4. Second part. Find the value of y when x and y given. So that means you have to make y as the subject. So how can we make y as the subject? You have to first square both sides. When you square, you get x squared here, y plus z. Then you can make y as a subject. So what is y? X squared minus z. Now I can substitute. X squared means 5 squared, z is 5. 5 squared is 25. 25 minus 5, you get 20 as the y value. Question number 3. K squared is given as Lm. Find the value of k when L equals 9 and M equals 4. So k is already in one side. I can take the square root value. Make sure you put plus or minus. Now substitute the values. L is 9 into 4, 36. Square root of 36 is 6. I can write plus or minus 6. Fourth one, consider the formula S equals ut plus half at squared. Find the value of t when u equals 0, a equals 5, s equals 250. Here, you have to make t as the subject of the formula. But what happens here? T is single value. This is a squared value. But luckily here, can you see when you substitute u equals 0, this t term get cancelled out. Because of that, you don't need to make t as a subject of the formula. We can straight away substitute the values. S equals 250, u equals 0, t equals 5, a equals 5, t squared. Now, 0 times any number is 0. I can write 250 equals half into 5 into t squared. Then cross multiply. I get 2 times 250 over 5 is t squared. Simplify. 5 times 50, 25. 22 times 50, I get 100. 100 is equal to t squared. When you take the square root value, I get plus or minus 10 as the t value. Then second part, find the value of t when u equals 5, 10 and 30. Now what happens? When you substitute the values in the formula, what happens here? You get two t terms. We'll try to simplify. S equals 30, u equals 5 and a equals 10. Now we get 2 times 5, 10. 30 equals 5t plus 5t squared. You get square term, a single t term and a constant. We'll take all terms to one side. What's that? When you take all terms to one side, 30 becomes minus 30. You get a quadratic equation. Here 5 is common for all three, so divide by 5. T squared plus t minus 6 equals 0. Solving quadratic equations. How we can solve? We can factorize first. Try to factorize the quadratic expression. You get t and t here because t squared. Factors of minus 6 to get plus 1. 3 and 2. Middle term is plus, so the bigger number is plus. So the answer is t plus 3 equals 0 or t minus 2 equals 0, because the product is 0 means either this is 0 or this part is 0. So t becomes minus 3 or 2. So in this question you are getting two solutions for the t value. Fifth one, find the value of t in the formula. T equals 2 pi L over G. When L equals 490, G is 10, and take pi as 22 over 7. So already t is the subject. We'll substitute. 2 times 22 over 7 L. L is 490 over 10. When you simplify inside square root, you get 49. Square root of 49. What is square root of 49? You get plus or minus 7. So here you get two solutions, plus 7 or minus 7. Here in this formula, t is the time. So you can take the positive value, but we'll do both values. 2 times 2 plus 44 or negative 44. Miscellaneous exercise in your textbook. The relationship between the base radius r and the height and the volume v of a cylinder is given by v equals pi r squared h. If a cylindrical shaped water tank of base radius 50 centimeter is filled with water, so radius is given 50 centimeters and height is 70. Find the volume of water in the tank. Height of water is 70 centimeters. So you are asked to find out the volume of water. So H is 70 given, R equals 50. Now we'll try to find out the volume. V is already the subject of the formula. You can write 22 over 7 as pi r squared. R is 50, so 50 squared. H is 70, 70 is this value. Simplify. 22 over 7, 50 squared. So you can write 5 squared is 25 and put 2 zeros. 2500 into 70. 7 times 10, you get 22 times here, 22 times 25. So we'll multiply 25 times 22 first. Zero, 2 times 50, so here 50, 550. 550 for this one, and then you need to put zeros. So 550 is 22 into 25, and how many zeros more? 1, 2, 3. 3 zeros more. So what's the final answer? This is 550,000 cubic centimeters, because all these in centimeters. Question number 2. The surface area A of sphere expressed in terms of radius r is given by A equals 4 pi r square. This is a sphere with radius r. Express the radius of the sphere in terms of the surface area. So you have to make r as the subject of the formula. So what is r squared here? A divided by 4 pi. Then take square root to get the r value. But we know this is about radius. You can take the positive value. Second part. If the surface area of a sphere is 616, find the radius. So we can substitute to this formula because you need to find out r. A is 616 divided by 4 pi. 4 times pi, pi is 22 over 7. When you are dividing this by 7, what happens? It goes as multiplication. I can do 616 multiplied by 7 divided by 4 and 22. I can first divide by 4. I'll take another color pen. 4 times 1, 4 times 1, 4. For 21, 5, 1 remaining. 4 times 4. 4, 16. So 154. When you divide by 11, 11 times 2, 11 times 111 for 44, that's 4. Then again, I can divide by 2. 7. 7 times 7, 49. So, square root of 49 is 7. This is in centimeters because the surface area given in square centimeters. Question number 3. The kinetic energy E of an object of mass m travelling with velocity v is given by the formula. Express the velocity of the object in terms of its kinetic energy and mass. So here E is the subject of the formula, so you have to make v as the subject of this formula. So how we do? First part, E equals half mv squared. Then you can first multiply by 2. 2e is equal to mv squared. And then what is v squared? V squared becomes 2e, this one, divide by m. Now what's v? V is the square root of 2e over m. So when you take square root, you can take plus or minus. So that's the first part. Then second part, find the kinetic energy of an object of mass 2.4 kilogram when it is travelling with a velocity of 3 meters per second. So that means you are asked to find out E. No need to take this formula, just you can take E equals half mv squared. Substitute the values. Half m. What is m? M is 2.4 kilograms and v squared is meters per second. So 3 squared. Now simplify. 2.4 times 3 times 3, 9 over 2. Then divide by 2, 2 times 1. So you get 1.2. 9 times 1.2, 9 times 2, 18, 1 remaining, 9 times 1, 9, plus 1, 10, and put a decimal point. So the energy is 10.8. Question number 4. If the length of the hypotenuse of a right angle triangle is x. So this is a right angle triangle and the hypotenuse is given x. And the lengths of the other two sides A and B. According to Pythagoras theorem, x is given as square root of a plus b squared. Find b when x is 25 and a equals 24. So we'll use first changing the subject of the formula to b. How can we do that? Get rid of the square root sign, you square both sides. You get a squared plus b squared. Then b squared is x squared minus a squared. What's b? Square root of this value. This is about length. So b is a positive answer. So x is given 25, 25 squared. A is given 24. Here, what's the easiest way to simplify? This is difference between two square terms. I can write this one as 25 plus 24 and 25 minus 24. When you simplify, you get 49 into 1. That means square root of 49. That's 7. So this is about length in centimeters. So I can write 7 centimeters for the B value. Fifth one, it's given the energy that a moving object possesses is given by the formula E equals mgh plus half mv squared. In this formula, E denotes the energy of the object, m its mass, v its velocity, and h is the height of its position. First part, express the mass of the object in terms of the other quantities. You need m, but look at the equation carefully. You get m in both terms. So that means m is common. First thing, you have to take m outside. When you take m outside, what you get? gh plus half v squared. Now we can make m as the subject of the formula. That means you have to divide E by this term, gh plus half v squared. Here you can keep the answer like this, or you can simplify further, because here half is in the denominator. I can simplify this one as E. When I take 2 as the common denominator, I'm getting 2gh plus v squared. E divide by this, what happens? E divide by this fraction, that means 2 goes to the numerator. I can rewrite as 2e over 2gh plus v squared. Or you can keep the answer like this. Now we look at question number 2. Express the velocity of the object in terms of the other quantities. Now v as a subject of the formula. I can take this term to the other side. I can write E minus mgh is equal to half mv squared. I need v squared. So v squared is, multiply this whole thing by 2 and divide by m. So v is square root of that answer. So I can write plus or minus. Third part, it says the energy possessed by an object of mass 3, m is given, and it is 5 meters above the ground. That means h is given, is 153 newtons. That means E is given. Find the velocity of this object at this moment. Take g as 10 meters per second. Here you have to find out velocity. Now we found v as the subject of the formula. We can use that to substitute values. So I can take these values and write down. This is plus or minus 2 times energy is given 153 minus m is 3 kilograms, g is 10, h 5 meters, and m again, m is 3 kilograms. Now simplify. I get plus or minus square root 2 times 153 minus 5 times 3, 15, 15 times 10, 150. 153 minus 153, and this 3 get cancelled out. You get plus or minus square root 2 as the velocity value. So this is meters per second. In this lesson, we discussed how to make any variable as the subject of the formula and how to substitute values in formulae. So this is the last unit in second term, and I'll come back to you with the third term work.